Akai has officially released MPC 3 with native instruments integration, which for the first time brings a selection of Native Instruments award-winning plugin instruments from the Play series and expansions to Akai's MPC standalone platform. It's a powerful combo. Let's get into some sound demos of the MPC Edition Play series and expansions by Native Instruments. Play series instruments each have a distinctive sound and character, with a selection of carefully designed presets and focused controls for modifying them. Expansions are versatile packs that offer Native Instruments sounds, kits, and presets designed for specific genres, from hip-hop to techno. Don't forget that expansions aren't just these kits, we've also got sample instruments as well. But that is just a taste of the huge library of sounds that you will get across the expansions and Play Series plugins on the MPC. But recently, I've had the chance to work on some beats that use exclusively these new sounds. So this beat you hear here is entirely created with sounds from this new Native Instruments integration. But what I want to show you now is how we can have a lot of fun tweaking some of these sounds. First of all, if I start at the main page and I load up one of these new plugins, I've got Analog Dreams loaded up now. I can open up the plugin page, and what you're going to see is something you've probably seen me tweaking over the course of this video is this XY pad, and the graphic sort of morphs along with me. You can see that these macros are changing at the same time, as well as this slider in the middle. Let's get into what's actually going on the screen, and this is going to be consistent across the MPC editions of these Play Series plugins. So along the side, you will see 4 macro knobs, which will of course align with your cue links. You've also got a slider here, which will balance you between the 2 layers that each Play Series sound is made up of. So if we go to layer A, if I just go all the way to the top there, we get this sound black triangle. It's not blended with anything else. If I go the opposite direction and I go all the way down to this double square here, you can hear that it's an entirely different sound. Some of the magic of the Play Series plugins comes from the blend of those two. We can edit each of those layers individually, but we'll come back to that in a moment. First, I want to talk about how we can actually control what happens when we use this XY pad. There's a small icon here right below where it says plugin called the quadrant edit icon. Let's select that, and you can see the interface has changed. We can see that there's 4 quadrants labeled on this XY pad, and we've got a capture button. All we need to do here is select the quadrant that we'd like to edit, make some changes to our macros, or maybe even the layer balance. I'll be really extreme for this one. Let's crank up the motion, actually. And then press the capture button. Now, when I press that quadrant edit icon again, we'll get out of the editing mode. And when I slide over to quadrant 2, which I was just editing, you can see that everything is going to completely shift to exactly how I had it. So we can start with a sound like this and morph over to a sound like that seamlessly. You can see that as I shift the XY pad, all of those parameters are changing fluidly, all of which can be customized by you. You can customize each of these quadrants. So let's go ahead and make something super extreme here. We're just going to turn all the dials down, and we will shift all the way to B. Actually, let's shift all the way to A just to make something different between quadrant 3 and quadrant 2. Press capture, get out of this mode. Now, suddenly, this is quite different then. So that just shows you the extremes you can go to when editing these quadrants, but also note that this is an XY pad, so I can land somewhere in the middle. Let's jump to a new beat and I'll show you how we can take this even further. Alright, this is another beat I've been working on, made entirely with Play Series and Native Instruments expansions. I want to show you how I use this preset on the Homage plugin. In fact, let me isolate it for a moment. I'll keep it with the drums. You can feel that motion? That purely came from messing with the XY pad here, because we can have just straight chords. Here we go. Or we can get that pumping feel, which I think is super cool. What's even cooler though is that we can automate this. So if I go to overdub, let's tweak the XY pad. Let's abruptly change from this motion to the straight chords. And now we're going to see that automation right here on the XY pad. So not only can we program these cool changes in our sound, but we can automate them to make even more dynamic changes in our music. Like I said earlier, we have control over the individual layers. We have quite a few sound design options here under the hood, but let me open up just one more track for us to really get into that. Alright, another track here created entirely with this new selection of sounds. If I go into layer A, let's tweak this filter. You can see that I have a whole page here of things that we can tweak. Now remember when I said earlier that the play series usually combines two sounds represented by layers A and B to make one epic sound. So we get control over both of these layers via these tabs at the bottom. So you can see right here we get access to layer A, and on this page we have a lot of parameters at a glance. I was just tweaking the filter for layer A. And we're really making the most of the screen real estate on this page because we can access these very important parameters via these little windows right here. But don't worry, we can have bigger controls for those parameters in a different page. I'll show you that in a moment. Just notice that we've got filter, amp envelope, the filter envelope, and the LFO to tweak here all at a glance. And in this pitch section right here, we can of course shift the octave of this layer, as well as completely detune it or change it by semitone. If you wanted to create some kind of instrument with harmony. We also have access to formant, level, start, and pan. So these are sample instruments. Start will control the sample start point for this individual layer. And earlier I dragged the slider all the way up to A, but we actually don't even need to do that. If we want to just work on one single sound layer, we can just hit the solo button there. And now we've soloed layer A, so we can hear the tweaks that we're making. Now I mentioned that these little controls right here, we can expand and get a bigger look at some of those. If I tap the layer tab again for layer A, we get a full page dedicated to the amp envelope. So if say I think the release time is a little too long on this sound, I will go ahead and shrink that down. Let's even slow the attack a little bit. If I combine that with layer B, it makes for a pretty good blend. Notice here that we also have tabs for the filter envelope and the LFO. These layer pages are all available by tapping the individual tab and scrolling through them. And then you can also obviously page through them right there on the interface. You have a tab for both layer A and layer B, so both layers have an equal depth in terms of control and sound design. We also have a matrix tab, which you can go really deep with. This is where you can get control over routing for your filter envelope as well as your LFO. Tapping the matrix tab will get you access to the matrix for layer A and matrix for layer B. You also have an effects tab, which these are effects for the whole instrument, not for layer A and layer B individually. You can add various effects. You can see I've got some saturation, some chorus, some delay, and some reverb. On this instrument, sounding epic. And tapping the FX tab again gets you access to an EQ. The last tab here is the Aftertouch tab, and this can be a lot of fun. But let's jump to another instrument so I can show you that. Okay, here I've got our bass. Go to the Aftertouch tab, and you can see from this page that there's actually 4 layers available to route. So let's go ahead and select something like the filter cutoff for layer A. You can see it already taking effect here. It's hard to show Aftertouch from a top-down view, but hopefully you can see as I press the pad and apply more pressure, our filter cutoff changes. And that took me no time at all. We can also change the sensitivity amount or a minimum and maximum value for this Aftertouch control. can hear that's not having much of an effect now that I've dialed it down to 32%. If I crank that up to 100, we get a much more dramatic sound. Finally, if you tap the Aftertouch tab again, you get access to parameters that you can modulate with a mod wheel if you're using a controller or if you've got the MPC keys. You can see that at a glance across all of these tabs, you have a ton of control over these really amazing sounds, which makes them a lot of fun to produce and perform with. With the official release of MPC3 OS for the MPC hardware and this brand new Native Instruments integration, Akai has merged their hardware innovation with Native Instruments software expertise for a collaboration that will empower producers with unmatched creative possibilities. If you've been thinking about picking up an MPC and some of this intrigued you, now is obviously the perfect time. Consider shopping at Sweetwater or contact a Sweetwater rep that can answer any questions you might have about working with an MPC and this new integration. And even if you're not an MPC user, MPK users should rejoice as well because there is full NKS support coming to the Akai MPK series, in addition to new software downloads for those users as well. My name is Tatro here for Akai with Sweetwater. Have a good one.